Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we have breaking news as Ukrainian Storm Shadow missiles are raining down in the Rostov-on-Don Oblast near the city of Taganrog, causing a significant amount of damage to military infrastructure. Meanwhile, we've also been able to get news that apparently Ukraine currently has an operational laser-based directed energy weapon system, capable of engaging and shooting down Russian air targets less than 2 kilometers away from the missile's source. We've also been able to hear that inside the area of the Kerch strait, it appears that Russian vessels that have been sinking in quite large numbers around the area are starting to take their toll, as oil spills are beginning to inflict the entire region of the Azov Sea, as well as the northern area of the Black Sea, near to Crimea, as well as the Russian coastline. Meanwhile, the Russian Federation is continuing to battle incredibly high inflation rates, and are now blaming the Russian central bank for their general incompetence. But nevertheless, we have a load of news to cover today, and moving on into our first bit of news, we have been able to hear of storm shadows flying overhead as they've been reaching their targets within the area of Taganrog, and we were able to see some of the videos right here. From what we can tell, these generally are Storm Shadow missiles, and here's another clip as well. But these are Storm Shadow missiles that are flying on their way to targets inside the Rostov-on-Don region, including the city of Taganrog. We were once again able to see another clip right here. Well, you can see what may be possible air defense fire, but we haven't seen the proof of any of the incoming missiles being shot down yet. You now see the cameraman running, and the video ends. We're not exactly sure how many missiles have made it through. Of course, the Russians are already claiming that they shot down 10 of them. Usually that information is wildly untrue. Usually we'll see that a large amount of them have already made it through the air defense and hit their targets. And we can see this video right here, once again, possibly around the Taganrog area, letting us hear the distant explosions as the air defense attempts to intercept the missiles and take them on down. We hear explosions in the distance, possibly missiles impacting their target, although we really cannot tell if this is air defense shooting the missiles down or the missiles hitting their target. Either way, we can hear the explosions. And that's the end of the clip right there, but still giving us a little bit of a look at what exactly is happening inside of Taganrog currently. We were able to hear that Storm Shadow missiles appear to have been the ones used. We were able to see the debris of a single missile that was shot down. This is the only one we confirmed was destroyed, at least at the moment. But it does appear that the same engine that is used inside the Storm Shadow missile seen here is the exact one that we're seeing on the ground. The additional nose cone to the front of the actual jet engine appears to be missing, but nevertheless, it appears to be a very similar model, and therefore for this reason we are believing that Storm Shadow missiles were involved in this attack. The attack appears to be once again targeting the Taganrog metallurgical plant, which is a very large industry within the city. You can actually see the Taganrog metallurgical plant just about up here. This is where the actual location of the plant is, but nevertheless it does seem as though the Ukrainians are once again trying to strike at Russian military abilities and knock them out once and for all, making sure that the Russian Federation is economically being hit where it matters the most, which is the tax base that allows the Russian Federation's government to be able to continue to raise funds to keep the war going. Nevertheless, while the Russian Federation is once again getting hit where it really counts the most, in the wallet for the large part of this point, it appears that the Ukrainians have actually gotten assistance from the United Kingdom on fielding a brand new weapon system that is incredibly potent and is the cutting edge of modern age technology. We were able to see that the Dragon's Fire has apparently been provided to Ukraine. We have video and picture evidence right here from back in the day when the British actually were conducting their first tests of the Dragon's Fire system, as can be seen here. It is a directed energy weapon using a laser beam to identify, target, and then shoot down any kind of air targets that it needs to, and can also engage surface targets as well. This system is incredibly interesting in its abilities, and it's one of many in the world right now. Almost every single country out there has their own version of the system. I believe that the United States has a system called the Thor, the Israelis have a system called the Iron Beam, the South Koreans also have one as well. I believe the Japanese do on top of that. The British are, I believe, the first in Europe to have the system, and we've already heard today that they're apparently going to be providing a decent amount of the prototypes to Ukraine to help them out with their air defense. Apparently, the system's technology is actually not that advanced, and they're not really concerned about national security reasons or concerns when delivering this weapon to Ukraine and letting them use it. We've already heard that according to many around the world, we've heard that Ukraine says it has laser weapons able to down targets flying at over 2 kilometers, which actually does sound a decent bit like a Dragon's Fire system in a prototype form that had been delivered to Ukraine. According to the Ukrainians, they said it is designed to intercept and destroy small drones, showing that the weapon may even be a little less powerful than that of the Dragon's Fire. The Dragon's Fire can actually engage a wide variety of targets, not just small drones, but officials do state that this technology enhances Ukraine's defense capabilities, and military experts are highlighting the significance of this advancement in warfare, which cannot be understated. But many people may be wondering, how in the world did I hear about Ukraine having a supposed laser weapon system that was capable of downing targets at over 2 kilometers away? This is the kind of news that you can only expect to get from one place, on this channel, or even better, from our sponsor, Ground News. Ground News is an absolutely incredible source of news for anyone that really cares about what kind of news they are actually getting. Forget about the background noise of other news sources. Ground News gets you straight down to the news without any of the filler. With Ground News features, I can even see who exactly posted this article, what they're based in, and who they are owned by. Like this publication from Reuters, a center-leaning, highly factual publication owned by the Woodbridge Company. You can find a huge range of different perspectives that are all compiled in one place, so you can see what exact biases and credibility they have, and also who is funding the conversation. Ground News has really helped me to see through all the political nuance that exists in some of these topics, an important factor due to the enforcer's commitment to remaining politically neutral. And this helps us to remain politically neutral and factual here on the channel, only sticking to the facts, just like they will help you to stick to the facts too. Even better, they have interest feeds that help you to follow the stories that matter to you, like this one on Syria, or this one on Ukraine, or this one on Taiwan. I personally use Ground News as my fact checker and bias remover behind the scenes, making sure that each and every story we make cuts through the disinformation and propaganda seen across the internet in almost every category. I cannot recommend it enough. And to help you with getting started on Ground News and I have partnered up to give you all 50% off on Ground News top tier Vantage plan, bringing the cost down to only $5 a month. Sign up today and see the world through clear new lenses with Ground News. And a huge shout out again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. And moving on from this news about the Ukrainian laser-based system, we were able to hear that the Russian Federation might not be able to really consider the financial possibilities of dealing with, say, trying to get a directed energy weapon these days. It appears that they're having some very considerable issues around the Kerch Strait, as we were able to get some satellite pictures today showing us that things are not going well right now in the area of the Kerch Strait. This is the Kerch, or as we would call it, the Kerch Strait. This is the city of Kerch along the Kerch Strait, as the Kerch Strait is actually named after the city of Kerch, which is a very interesting thing. But nevertheless, we can see some satellite pictures and video evidence here showing us some very interesting things. First off, I would like to bring y'all to the defenses around the Kerch Bridge. There used to be an incredibly large line of barges that used to protect the bridge. It went from about 34 barges to now they're down to around 11, meaning that a large amount of them may have possibly sank in position, and they're no longer usable as an actual defensive element. Meanwhile, we've also been able to see that Volgan F-212, at least the rear section of the ship, the stern area, is resting along the shoreline right near to the Taman oil depot that allows for ships to be able to load up with oil and then ship it around the world. It appears that at least part of it is sitting on the shoreline right there, but nevertheless, one thing that's interesting is that y'all may realize that there's 2 vessels on the satellite picture, but 3 of them have gone down. Volgan F-212, Volgan F-239, and Volgan F-109. Only Volganev 212 and 109 are visible currently on satellite picture. It appears that Volganev 109 actually went down before it even got into the Kerch Strait, right along the shoreline, and we can actually see oil still flowing from the wreck right there as it continues to deposit its delicious contents into the ocean. I'm sure fish will be enjoying the oily taste for quite some time. But nevertheless, this is once again showing us how bad off the Russians are, at least on the maritime side of things. The Ghost Fleet is actually starting to suffer incredibly high casualties due to just bad weather. These ships are simply not designed to deal with this kind of damage or abuse from the high seas, and it appears it is quite clearly showing. Even vessels are sinking now inside the Azov Sea, which is usually considered a good bit calmer than its counterpart, the Black Sea. Also, another thing that is incredibly interesting as well is that while the Russians are dealing with this major economic disaster inside the area of the Kerch Strait, it now appears that inside of Moscow, the Russian state Duma is trying to find someone to blame for literally carrying on a war that is destroying themselves economically, and it appears that they have found their target: the Russian Central Bank. And now it's time for us to watch the Russian State Duma act like they have no idea why in the world the economy is tanking as they continue to keep a war going that is quite literally destroying Russia from inside out, and they are now going to blame the central bank solely for the failures of their own governance. And so here's the clip.
Центробанк нас уверяет, что иного пути борьбы с инфляцией, как повышать учетную ставку, нет. Вопрос госпоже Набиуллиной. Госпожа Набиуллина, с июля прошлого года вы начали повышать учетную ставку. Насколько увеличилась инфляция? В 2 раза. Эй, госпожа Набиуллина, вы как-то вообще адекватны или нет? Что за бред вы несете? О чем вы говорите? Учетная ставка гробит нашу экономику. Не дает возможности поднимать наш внутренний валовый продукт. Вот это следствие повышения учетной ставки.
Well, it generally appears that they're very shocked at how the economy is completely collapsing around them. It certainly could not be that the Russian Federation is sanctioned from almost every single country in the world, and they're not able to conduct a normal rate of trade anymore. That would probably be collapsing a large amount of domestic industries, such as the oil industry, which is pretty much heavily reliant on exporting. It couldn't be that the war in Ukraine is absorbing a massive amount of Russian funds and money to, try and make sure that this war can keep on going. That could not be it at all. In fact, it couldn't be that the Russian government is not putting a lot of money into their infrastructure or basic civil functions anymore due to the war in Ukraine. That simply could not be it either. All these answers are absolutely ridiculous, and are once again blaming the Russian government for something that should be entirely unavoidable. No. It's not the Russian government keeping the war in Ukraine going and all of the crippling sanctions that are actually damning the economy here in the Russian Federation. It is simply the fact that the bank's trying to respond to the economy imploding and hiking up interest rates. Why, this sounds like it makes a lot of sense. And I would have to say that I think the Russian Duma's onto something. It really makes a lot of sense when you think about it, that it actually isn't the people who are creating the problem who are at fault. It's actually, as a matter of fact, the people who are trying to respond to the problem that are at fault. This is the kind of thinking that we need to see around the world, because the Russians have it down pat. Do not blame the problem makers, blame the problem solvers. They're genius. And while they are currently running out of money, and the Russian Duma is now starting to make a massive issue about this, because quite literally everyone in Russia at this point is starting to feel that they're running out of money, we have been able to see that they have at least put a massive amount of cutting-edge spending and technology into trying to figure out how to train Russian soldiers to evade drones. And we have been able to see that the money that they've invested has gone in well. Observe. I believe that they're going to be making it very far in drone evasion tactics and doing a very good job of making sure to keep Russian soldiers safe out there on the battlefields. Stay toasty, my friends, or more so stay frosty. It is the winter months, and it's kind of the holiday season at this point. But moving on out of that and on down into the areas of Georgia, it does seem as though at least the Russian Georgian Dream Party inside of the country is getting a little bit farther ahead, as some sort of an explosive went off in the city. We can not show you all this at the moment, but we could kind of give you all at least a little look at the article. But nevertheless, the Russian Georgian Dream Party is already attempting to run the country of Georgia with an iron fist. We've already heard that an explosive has gone off in the city today near to a opposition party's headquarters, and we've also heard that the head of the opposition party was actually attacked with a screwdriver today inside of Tbilisi. Apparently not the kind that you get at the nightclub or you ask for a screwdriver drink. But it does appear that the Russian Georgian Dream Party is not really that friendly to the opposition any longer, and they are now trying to clearly show that they are openly going to oppress the Republic of Georgia and run the nation with an iron fist. However, outside of that, we have been able to see that on the actual front lines themselves, there's been some very interesting news coming out, as Alexander Syrskyi has announced that there is an additional 100,000 Russian troops inside of Ukraine at this point. And according to his information, this would actually raise the number to around 300,000 Russian troops inside of Ukraine. According to additional information, the Armed Forces Chief noted that the conflict has reached such a technological level that we can now talk about the confrontation of technology and the confrontation of armed forces. According to him, this has significantly affected the tactics used by troops on the battlefield. It is still, once again, a very interesting thing to note that the Russian Federation has more soldiers in Ukraine at this point than it ever has, and still frontline advances or any kind of massive strategic victory on the battlefield is as elusive as it was during the opening days of the conflict. We were also able to hear within southern Ukraine as well that a Ka-52 was shot down by friendly fire. We can already see the fighter bomber is holding one of those candlelight vigils as usual for the Russian helicopter that got shot down, but nevertheless it was a friendly fire incident, and it doesn't seem as though there was any Ukrainian involvement in shooting down the Ka-52, so the Russians have lost actually, crazily enough, about 2 to 3% of the Russian helicopter fleet of Ka-52s in that single attack due to friendly fire. A massive credit to the Russian Federation for always making sure to inflict more damage on themselves than could ever be inflicted on them in damage by enemy forces. Neither in Syria nor in Ukraine has anyone done as good as ruining the Russian Federation as the Russian Federation itself, and we have to give the title of Russian Federation Destroyer to the Russian Federation for their amazing abilities of doing such a thing every single day. We've also been able to hear, though, that they are currently being contended for this title, as it seems as though the North Koreans are also getting pretty good at this whole business. According to what we know, North Korean troops have killed 8 Russian troops accidentally in friendly fire incidents. Well, I suppose that they're just learning, and the learning curve is a little bit steep. Every once in a while, you just accidentally, blast a Russian here and there, and that makes sense because the North Koreans are brand new to the whole thing, and how in the world can they tell a Russian from a Ukrainian, considering that they've never been outside of North Korea in the first place? I mean, the armbands couldn't give it away, or the different kinds of camouflage, or for the fact that they're running right at the Ukrainians and the Russians are sitting right beside them. There are so many things that are confusing to the North Koreans, it's simply an enigma, and I suppose that the revolutionary Juche spirit will finally lead them to victory one day, as they'll probably end up wiping out more Russians than Ukrainians at this point. But still, that is all of the major breaking news that we have today, and I'm going to thank you all so much once again for watching, and if y'all have enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you made it to this point in the video, please make sure to put in the comment section Storm Shadow to let me know that you've watched it all the way through. That is Storm Shadow, Shadow of the Storm. And please make sure to put that down in the comment section to let me know that you made it to this point. But I still thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video or in tonight's stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching, and we will see you all then. Have a great time and take care.